brother. What's up?
This is a groovy party, man.
Yeah,
I
brother.
can dig
Like,
it.
stop. Right on.
Hey, man, what's your name? Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, brother, brother.
Good morning and welcome to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. I think I finally got those numbers in my head.
You got that imprinted.
Yeah, it took a while. But anyway, it's Friday, and good morning to you, Calvin. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. You said it. It's Friday.
Yeah, man. You gonna go to any Halloween parties? You do that anymore?
No, I've never been a big Halloween guy.
No,
It's
not
funny
even.
you look like a Halloween guy.
Well, you know, my
That was a joke.
not to draw attention to it because I don't want that, but my birthday is the day before Halloween, so that's kind of always killed the Halloween spirit a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, really, man? So even when you were a kid, you weren't a big Halloween guy, trick-or-treat guy?
Yeah, I mean, every kid loves trick or
Yeah.
treat.
It's Friday. That means that other guy is here.
My mother was super puritanical, and she thought we couldn't go out begging. So I didn't ever go on the trick-or-treat route. I always felt badly about that. But
So by now you know who that is, the one and only Sandy Williams. Good morning to you, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm going to go out trick-or-treating. Finally.
Sandy, we got a lot to talk about this morning, as always.
Yeah, the clock is ticking down. There's,
10 days, man.
yeah.
It's just like in the twinkling of an eye, it was 60 days. But the frightening thing about that is, I remember just saying, hey, it was 60 days out. What happened to the 50 days?
Well, I'll tell you this, though. There were people who said that when Kamala got the nomination so late in the game that it was like too late in the game. And it's been forever. It's gone quickly. But we can't even remember clearly when it was that Joe Biden was the probable contender and Kamala Harris is. The public has learned plenty. I think one lesson we can get from this is that 90 days is plenty of time to run a presidential election, and having these presidential elections run for years is kind of a horror that we've inflicted upon ourselves. Lots of other countries have very constrained time periods, like 90 days.
Sandy, you are absolutely correct, because I remember so well us having the conversation and people saying it was too late to change horses in the middle of the stream.
Yeah.
And so even I got to thinking, well, how is she going to be able to do this? But you're right. Now all this has been exposed, but it's never going to change because there's too much money.
Lots of money. Yeah, a lot of money here. And the fact is that, everyone knew who Donald Trump was 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So, anybody running against Trump, other than someone who'd been in office for a long period of time, was going to have an issue. But Kamala's been out there, right? And the interesting thing has been to watch Republicans try and paint the administration as being the Kamala Harris administration the last 3 years, but they aren't trying to attribute to Michael Pence everything good that happened, or to the extent there were good things that happened under Donald Trump. No one's saying, yeah, that was Michael Pence. In fact, you see comparisons of administrations, and it's the Republicans run a picture of Donald Trump. They call it the Trump administration, and then they have the Biden-Harris administration, as if the vice president under Biden has played a role materially different than the vice president under Donald Trump did. Michael Pence was somebody who was the vice president, just as Kamala Harris is vice president.
Sandy, there are so many people who are saying that the media has been culpable in the way it's handled Vice President Harris and how it's handled Donald Trump. For instance, trying to hold her to everything that she says holding her foot to the fire, her feet to the fire.
Right.
You said, and you changed, and this is both CNN, this is MSNBC. These are outlets that would even skew to the left, but they have been on top of trying to make sure that they didn't give her any break for fear that Republicans are going to say, "Hey, you're throwing on marshmallows."
Well, but the point is, the person who gets marshmallows is Donald Trump. Donald Trump says everything, okay? And I guess he shoots with a blunderbuss. You know, a blunderbuss being these kind of shotgun-like weapons that were used in old warfare that shot out many, many pellets, some of which did damage and some of which didn't. But Donald Trump is a blunderbuss, and he talks about everything, talks about every side of everything, says everything. He's the father of IVF, whatever that means. Nobody asks him all about that. And so, the fact is that he's always claimed to be the victim, and somehow it's sunk in to the extent that the media has trouble holding his feet to the fire and has no trouble whatsoever with someone who's actually an adult who speaks succinctly about policy and describes policies. And you're right. I think that it's the gaslighting. Donald Trump wants to claim the media's after him in an unfair way, when in fact, if you had looked at what the media does, they actually hold Kamala's feet to the fire, and they let Donald Trump have a free ride.
So, Sandy, before we get into all that, Calvin, if you'll be so kind, there is a text message that I think you can read, if you will.
Yeah, we got Steven on Facebook saying, Trump set the bar so low that media sane washes whatever babbling thing he says, but in general, it boils down to money in politics because Democrats always hold their representatives accountable before Republicans do. When they do something corrupt or break the law, they don't put the same pressure on them to resign, like George Santos. Look how long that took for the House on the Republican side to kick him out. Democrats' model of made Franken resign for some BS. See the difference in stand.
And so before we get any further, we just want to let you know that we're going to be joined by Senator Ron Johnson in the 9 o'clock hour. And so, that's going to be happening today. Let's go to the phone lines and David from Mech One. Good morning to you, David. You say what?
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. And I just wanted to throw a couple things out there. If you remember a number of years ago now, when we had 51 intelligence officials that went on record, a written statement to Congress that said the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. Did anybody get fired from that? Absolutely not. And the question is, Harris just had a town hall meeting. David Axelrod said her answers were, it was a word city salad.
Oh my! Wait, well, David, first, well, you've called before we got to a subject matter other than to talk broadly, but word salad. I just think if we're talking word salad, you could hardly try to attack Kamala Harris for word salad when you've got Donald Trump, who's got his is chopped salad, okay, which is even in finer pieces. And if you want to talk about intelligence issues, the Robert Mueller report didn't vindicate Donald Trump. It simply said they didn't have grounds that could serve as a basis for prosecution. But there is plenty of evidence associated with contacts with both the Ukrainian and Russian folks that smells to high heaven. Now, the Biden son issue is Biden's son. Okay, it's not Joe Biden. So we're just talking apples and oranges here, and you've called with a talking point, but it has nothing to do with Kamala Harris.
Well, again, she had a town hall Maria Shriver was the moderator, and she told the audience that all the questions have been predetermined, that none of the audience members had a chance to ask a question. She actually said that. And so when she gave her answer,
Well, David, just stop. Do you want us to run the video and audio of one of Donald Trump's town hall meetings? I mean, are you willing to sit for 2 hours and listen to the nonsense? Should we talk about Arnold Palmer? Should we talk about the cats and dogs? Should we talk about, I mean, really, let's talk about policies. Let's not talk about style, because you don't have someone, I mean, his style is apparently working for some folks, but it's not a style that's defensible. I'm surprised that people who have to look in the mirror when they shave in the morning can do it and stand up and justify his processes, all right? I understand what he stands for. He's an anti-establishment populist politician, and he struck a chord amongst a lot of people. But I'm surprised that you want to make this a personality test.
Well, it's not a personality test. It's just the reality is that if you look at what she's been doing, we've been putting her on like a different plane. I understand it. She can definitely speak better than Donald Trump. However, what's bothersome, and Cassandra brought it up yesterday on Earl's show, is that you're not getting you're getting a repeat narrative. Like she's just not telling what she's actually thinking.
Let's go down some issues. Has she talked about what she's going to do to promote affordable housing? Yes. Has she talked about actual policies associated with it? Yes. Has she talked about how it is that she wants to exercise the antitrust laws in order to affect price gouging? Yes. She's talked specifics about many things. Does she say them repeatedly? Yes. Well, how many is she supposed to dream up new issues every day? Donald Trump does that.
So again, with the $25,000 housing, that's going to increase costs.
Hey, Dave, thank you very much for the call. 855-752-4842. It's Friday. That means Fridays with my co-host Sandy Williams and you.
Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. Accentuate the positive, and latch on.
We gotta accentuate the positive.
Dean Martin.
Nope.
Eliminate the negative.
And a fellow Italian, Perry Como.
He sounds like Dean Martin.
I know he does.
Man, I would have taken a bet that that's Dean Martin.
Nice. Where this guy wears cardigan
Yeah, I
sweaters.
know who
He
Perry
doesn't-
Como
yeah.
was or is.
Was, I think.
Yeah, Perry Como was got to be almost a was.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 855-752-4842. That's 855-752-4842. It's Friday. That means Fridays with my co-host, Sandy. I'm Sandy the Music.
Well, today it's a combination of optimism. I think we should all have to reestablish an optimistic outlook, regardless. And two, some of it has to do with giving us some walking orders. Get out and vote.
All right, let's. We got a lot to talk about, man. Let's go to the phone lines quickly. Mike from Kenosha. Good morning to you, Mike. You say what?
Well, first of all, happy Friday, man. I just love Fridays. My favorite day of the work week, for sure.
You're retired.
Thanks for taking my call.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
I know.
You
You still love Fridays.
I do lift every day, I promise.
Oh.
And I best get it done before
Yeah.
I have lunch made. Anyway, hey, real quick, thanks for taking my call. David from Mequon, I don't get it. And please help me understand. We're hearing almost Armageddon type of warning signs from many within the senior Trump administration. Again, the chief of staff, a Gold Star general, has warned us about Donald Trump being a fascist, and again, the most flawed individual he's ever met, as well as literally dozens and dozens and dozens of other senior members. And David, you bring up Hunter Biden laptop? He's not running for office. If you want to, get real serious about nepotism and family advantages, you don't have to look further than Jared and Ivanka. My God. And you talk about, there's such an unequal reporting of all this stuff. The things that Donald Trump does as routine, they try to barbecue all the opposition on the same exact issue. Finally, we see all these ads, and they do no good but turn off America. We see all these, and they're heavily weighted with transgender stuff and everything else. Well, meanwhile, New York Times and others come out and show examples of that exact same policy that was initiated and put forth by Donald Trump. So again, where is the media? Where is the fact checkers? They're nowhere, or certainly irrelevant. David, help me please understand why Hunter Biden laptop is in the conversation when we're talking about fascists and a potential president of the United States using the military against our own citizens.
Hey, Mike, thank you very much for the call. Sandy, you want to respond to any of that?
Well, I do think that the things that Donald Trump now talks about are dark and foreboding, I believe, because I think that there's plenty of evidence based on the biographers, all the discussion that was had with biographers, testimony of those in sworn testimony before Congress that relate to the January 6th incident, about Donald Trump's instincts, his desire to use the military against American citizens, his desire to control protesters, his desire to shut down media that is negative or asking questions about his policies. This is all very dangerous stuff. And, the opposition can say, oh, that's scare tactics. But, there have been other countries and other times where it would have been very good if people had come forward and said what was happening and described it accurately enough to keep it from happening. And here we have a situation where there are plenty of people who know this person well who are warning us, giving us dire warnings, and we ought to sit up and listen.
Let's go to Charles quickly. Good morning to you, Charles from Milwaukee. You say what, sir?
Yep, I'll make this real quick. 3 quick points. I listened to his supporters. I listened to him. He claims to love and back the blue, but he had no respect for the men and women on January 6th, nor has he apologized for what they went through. He claims to support the military. Any decorated veteran that speaks out against him, he trashes them and claims he's for the veterans. I'll never understand why military people support him. And every chance he gets, he bashes America. Now we're a garbage can. I don't get the love for him. Only thing I can think of is the hate toward people that are black and brown, because that seems to resonate with his supporters.
Well, man, it's pretty clear. Dave had a chance to talk about many other things, but he wants to go back to the Hunter Biden laptop. I mean, digging that up, Sandy, and thank you, Charles. I appreciate digging that up at this hour.
Well, it's a bright, shiny object is all it is. It's a distraction. It's a desire to talk about something that has no relevance but is scurrilous, okay? It's prurient. It's the kind of stuff that people can get distracted by who love to gossip or love to indulge in conspiracy theories, but it's not something that relates to public policy.
No, I don't think I had completely forgotten about Hunter Biden's laptop. No relevance.
Well, I don't think Hunter Biden forgot about it. But and Hunter Biden has, been brought to justice. I mean, the guy is going to be sentenced, right?
But Sandy, but the fact that it's brought up with all of the things that are going on, that somehow is relevant. 855-752-4842. It's Tuesday. Oh, it's Friday. And that means, hey, Calvin, I said today was Tuesday. Heaven forbid. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show.
To illustrate his last remark, Jonah in the whale, Noah in the ark.
And what did they do?
What did they do just when everything looked so dark? What did they do? What did they do?
Man, they said you gotta accentuate the positive feeling. Might hit the negative and latch on to the affirmative. Don't mess with Mr. In Between. No, don't mess with Mr. In Between. No, don't you mess with Mr. In Between. No, don't mess with Mr. In Between.
It's a beautiful morning. I think I'll go outside for a while and just smile. Just taking some clean, fresh air for no sense in staying inside. If the weather's fine and you got the time, it's your chance to wake up and plan another brand new day.
Look, only Sandy Williams can go from Perry Como. Hey, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always,
My life brackets a lot of people.
855-752-4842. It's Friday. Sandy,
I can go from Perry Como to Eminem.
I know. Perry Como. All right. The music.
Yeah, well, part of this is just optimism. Wake up. It's a bright, shiny day. It's another good day.
Yeah.
And people, we've gotten so wound up about this election. I think people just need to smile and have a good time. But there is something to be done, which is get out and vote.
So I want to get here before we go to the phone lines. McConnell MAGA movement is completely wrong. Outgoing Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell said former President Trump has hurt the Republican Party's ability to compete and that the MAGA movement is completely wrong. I think Trump was the biggest factor in changing the Republican Party from what Ronald Reagan viewed and he wouldn't recognize today, McConnell said, according to a new biography penned by Michael Tackett of the Associated Press. One more paragraph. These excerpts were first reported Thursday on CNN. McConnell said Trump has done a lot of damage to our party's image and our ability to compete. Trump is appealing to people who haven't been as successful as other people and providing an excuse for that these more successful people have somehow. Trump is appealing to people who haven't been as successful as other people and providing an excuse for that these more successful people have somehow cheated, and you don't deserve to think of yourself as less successful because things haven't been fair, McConnell said. Sandy, that's pretty...
Some complicated thoughts,
yes.
But there's no question that you can just look what's happened at the voting booth during the period of Donald Trump. He wins in 2016, although loses the national numeric count. In 2018, the midterm election, the party loses. The Republican Party loses ground. The Republican Party loses the 2020 election and loses ground. Okay, and in 2022, a time when normally the out party makes up substantial ground, the Republican Party did historically poorly in the off-term election. So, the Republican Party has suffered as the result of Donald Trump. This is something that Paul Ryan will point out regularly. But the fact is that Donald Trump is a movement. He's not a theoretical man. He's not a man who carries public policy on his back whatsoever. He's simply tapped into a bunch of emotions with a bunch of people and has created a populist movement that the Republican Party has married itself to. But it is not something that relates to the bases for the Republican Party, and there are plenty of Republicans who wish that the Republican Party would become something that it used to be. And I suspect that what will happen if Donald Trump loses is there might be an opportunity for the Republican Party to resurrect itself as a legitimate party rather than a cult movement. And I think there are a numbers of people, Mitt Romney, others of the Republicans, who are looking forward to the notion, not that they want to destroy the Republican Party by having it lose in this Kamala Harris election, but rather they want to resurrect the Republican Party by having it lose in the Kamala Harris election, because only then can it shed itself of this cult.
So the Republicans, the Liz Cheneys, her dad, the Charlie Sykeses, and others who have decided.
Well, and people, down ticket, people, sheriffs, mayors around Wisconsin, around the country. There's many Republicans who are standing up and saying, we can't vote for this. And there's plenty of reason for them not to vote for it because it theoretically has no relationship really to the Republican Party or the things that people signed up for when they signed up to become Republicans.
So let me ask you then, Sandy, it begs the question, Donald Trump loses, the Republican Party now has to sit down, get in a room, lock the door, and work this out, because is the MAGA a representation of the Republican Party going to be the future representation of the Republican Party, or is the other side going to finally push back? We can talk about the elected officials who are afraid to buck Donald Trump and MAGA, but I'm talking about the voters. Will the voters themselves continue to accept?
Well, I think the question is whether the MAGA movement is a movement that currently has a leader named Donald Trump, or is it a movement that because of this person named Donald Trump? And so when Donald Trump recedes from the focus, will the MAGA movement continue to have the kind of drive that it has? You know, after January 6th, in the weeks after that, we had Kevin McCarthy, the House Speaker at the time, Republican House Speaker. We had Mitch McConnell, the Republican Majority Leader in the Senate, both of whom were talking about distancing themselves from Donald Trump and taking the Republican Party back from him. And he hectored them through his base. He was able to then basically orchestrate his base to again exhibit enough strength so that these people, these leaders, were hectored by them, and they were hectored because there were plenty of incumbents in the House of Representatives and in the Senate who were worried about facing primary opposition that might be ginned up against them by this MAGA movement. And so did they do this because they agreed with Donald Trump? No, they were hectored.
Self-preservation.
They were hectored into it because of the self-preservation instincts of these incumbents who did not want to face opposition. And therefore, we saw both Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell quite quickly come to heel. I'm sure they swallowed their pride. I'm sure their conversations at the dinner table across the table talking to their spouse is far different about Donald Trump than whatever they're saying publicly.
You know, Sandy, that I recall Senators Rubio and Cruz. They were speaking strongly against Donald Trump, right? They were outspoken, very outspoken about him because he was really denigrating their families, their wives, their fathers.
Well, the window was beginning to open on the Republican Party migrating away from the MAGA movement with January 6th. But when the leadership got hectored and when the incumbents became fearful about the possibility of being primaried out of existence, and they moved back towards MAGA, they were forced to do it with enthusiasm, apparent enthusiasm, and open arms. And I'm afraid that the movement has more control over the Republican Party today than it did in 2020. But the issue for the Republican Party really is, in the long run, can they escape this movement or not? And that will. A lot will depend on whether Donald Trump gets elected or not.
All right, let's go to Tom from West Dallas. Good morning to you, Tom. You say what?
I am just floored by his words. McConnell is the architect of all this. He is the one that allowed this to happen. And now he's saying, oh, this is no good right now at this time. I mean, I don't believe him. I don't believe any Republicans in anything they say. From the Supreme Court, who said that, no, we're not going to touch Roe v. Wade, to Hovey and all his stuff that he says he's going to do and not do, and he's not going to, come on. But McConnell saying this is just, what a bunch of hooey.
Thank you very much for the call, Tom. Let's go to Susan from Kenosha. Good morning to you, Susan. You say what?
Well, once again, this is a great program, and it gets people to think. But I believe, this is what I believe. I believe in this country, and I believe in the people of this country. And they are going to want to save this country because this is the most important vote that we are going to ever take in our life, and it's going to affect our children and our children's children for the future. But I do believe in my heart that the Republican Party is going to do an about-face. And even though they are threatened by this MAGA movement, there are more of us than there are of them. And we need to stay strong. We need to back Harris, and we have to get the train back on the tracks. And we need to rebuild the Republican Party, help them rebuild, so that we have a two-party system. But I have faith. I just have faith in these people. We've done it time and time again from the beginning, from the birth of this country. If you read about our history, we've always had these movements. We had the Civil War. We went through a lot of turmoil, but I do believe in the American people.
Hey, Susan, so in other words, this too shall pass. Thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Tom from L.A. Good morning to you, Tom. You say what?
Well, I 100% agree with Tom from West Dallas. My God, for anyone to give Mitch McConnell a pass is a joke. He's the one that did the whole Supreme Court. You know what? It's just, honestly, the media absolutely sucks. They don't call Donald Trump what he is, which is a fascist. They should have been doing that from the beginning, or a convicted felon at the very least. They have just sat there, and then they say, oh, Kamala, why haven't you done this? Kamala hasn't done this plan. Are you kidding me? Honestly, this is just, and going into, all I got to say is, and here's one other thing, the media keeps on talking about, the Republicans are getting out in a lot of numbers and early voting. What's to say those Republicans aren't voting for Kamala Harris? A woman's right to choose is on the ballot, and I know many Republican women that are voting for their best interest, which is a woman's right to choose. But the media keeps on framing this. They keep on wanting the horse race. They keep wanting it to be so close. I don't buy it. All I'm going to do is keep on phone banking. I'm going to keep on working door to door, do whatever I can to make sure Kamala Harris becomes our next president and Tammy Baldwin becomes the next senator in Wisconsin. Because honestly, this is fascism, guys.
All right, Tom. Thank you very much for the call. Calvin, you want to read some of those texts?
Yeah, I can do that. Steven wrote us a little poem about Donald Trump. I'll just read the first couple lines. Trump sits in a room of broken lives, haunted by schemes and cheated wives. Old and cold and mad as hell. He can sit and glare, but he cannot yell. And it goes on, and it's pretty funny.
Finish reading that, man. Finish reading that.
Okay. He folds his arms into a shrunken pose, too old and feeble to stop the doze. He hates the judge and hates the case, and he hates the rules that keep him in place. The fat, frumpy golfer is a weak old man with weird hair and deep fake tan. He's desperate and angry and doesn't sleep well, so he rants in hell like a clanging bell.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. If Steve wrote it, kudos, and if he just read it and repeated it, kudos to that as well. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it really was. So Sandy, because this really is going to be something I asked you before. Donald Trump, let's say, doesn't go away. Oh, we're up against. All right. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. It's Friday. That means Sandy Williams is here, and you can join him on the Earl Ingram Show. Don't worry. Be happy.
Bobby McFerrin. This was the earliest of the beatbox. This is all his voice, every sound.
Sandy, you're pretty amazing. Beatbox. I wouldn't think that you. Right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Sandy, the music.
Well, this is just a happy optimism. We've gone through a lot in the last years, and so I figure it's time to brighten things up. But we got a job to do. We got to get out and vote.
So Senator Johnson is going to be joining us in the next segment, and
it's interesting the segue, but Johnson is certainly a senator who's thrown his lot in with the MAGA Republicans. His approach to politics, I think, has changed ever since Donald Trump came to power, and it seems that he seems to curtsy to that throne.
Well, Sandy, he clearly reached out to us, and his people reached out to us, and he wanted to appear on the show. And so, we're not afraid of Senator Johnson.
Well, no, he's clearly acting in the role of a surrogate. He's not running for office now, so he's obviously wanting to appear on the show, I presume, to act in the role of a surrogate for people who are running for office now on the Republican side. Presumably, it's the Donald Trump and Hovde.
Let's go to the phone lines. Eric from Tulsa. Hey, good morning to you, Eric. Man, you gotta. Yeah, we got to hook. We got to connect, man. But go ahead.
Yeah. Hello. Good morning, Earl. Good morning, Sandy. I would like to ask, please, if you would ask Senator Johnson if the former president lost in 2020, and that's not what I'm calling.
I've already got that on the list.
That's one of them.
Go ahead.
Earl. I can't wait to hear the answer, or the non-answer. I think come November 5th, a lot of Americans are going to be shocked when they find out who all these early Republican voters are voting for. Also, you're hearing a lot about folks talking about choosing country over party. And when your regressive callers call in, what we're hearing are examples of choosing party over country. And speaking of the word salad type stuff, if you heard those questions that Vice President Harris was getting, she was obviously, they asked her to call out her personal mistakes and what she would do better. And she had to talk around those gotcha questions. And this is comparing to a guy who just yesterday was complaining about President Obama on radio shows. He doesn't even realize that we're two presidents away from President Obama. So there's no comparison. I think Van Jones had a great thing where he said that, something about, I'm not a big fan of Van Jones, but he said something about how he's allowed to commit crimes and she's out there, having to prove herself every day. And like you guys had said earlier, it's just not a fair fight right now, but that's okay. We're pushing through. We're going to canvass to the win, and no new Republicans are registering while Democrats are doing it every day. So I think the proof is in the pudding.
Hey, Eric, always good stuff, man. Thank you very much. We need to connect. Let's go to Mark from Prairie du Sac. Good morning to you, Mark. You say what?
Hey, good morning, Earl. Yeah, and ask Senator Johnson if he's ever bothered to read Section 2 of the 14th Amendment and recognizing that he violated the voting rights of every citizen in the state of Wisconsin when he participated in the fake electors plot. That because he was involved in that well before he was told, trying to get those documents to the vice president. It is just disgusting that Ron Johnson hasn't been prosecuted for that yet, but his feet need to be held to the fire, I want him to be thoroughly uncomfortable during this interview. That he should be comfortable.
Hey, Mark. Thank you, Sandy. You want to respond to any of that?
No, I do think that the media needs to be to hold politicians' feet to the fire in terms of asking them questions that the public wants answers to, and then requiring them to answer those questions rather than simply reverting to talking points. And we'll see if we can handle that. We'll see if we can accomplish that. Senator Johnson's this isn't his first rodeo. He's been around for a long time, and I suspect one of the things he is good at is avoiding answering questions.
Well, like most politricksters, I mean, that's, I will say this. We certainly aren't going to make things pleasant.
Well, it's not a question of making them pleasant. I don't think it should be unpleasant for a politician to be asked a question that relates to public policy now, not personal matters, and then to answer the question that is asked, particularly to the extent that the question might relate to an important public policy that the public is interested in understanding the answer to, so they can make their vote knowledgeably. And so, I think that would be my intent with the senator, would be to focus on what might be important policies going forward, not backward. And what does the senator answer have? What does the senator have in the way of real answers for those?
Yeah. So on the other side of, this, you're going to be hearing Senator Ron Johnson on the Earl Ingram Show, or in Friday edition with Sandy Williams. Make sure you are there. 855-752-4842 on the Earl Ingram Show.
Don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, don't do it. Be happy. Put a smile on your face. Don't bring everybody down like this. Don't worry. It will soon pass, whatever it is. Don't worry, be happy.
She rattled the ice in my plastic cup. I said, yes, man, fill her up. Tell me something good that I don't know. 'Cause this world's been
All right. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 855-752-4842. And as promised, on the line, Senator Ron Johnson. Good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Earl. I'm doing well. Hope you are too.
All right, Sandy, you had a question you wanted to ask the Senator?
Well, I did. Senator, I presume you wanted to be on the show, and it's in many respects like acting in a surrogate role for the candidate for president. So I thought we'd ask you a question that would be the question we'd like to ask him. And so this is economics. The people talk about how the various candidates poll with respect to their ability to handle the economy, but and there's a lot of talk about the economy looking backwards. We don't talk about the Pence period. We talk about the Trump period. But apparently the Republicans want to talk a lot about the Harris period with the inflation that occurred in the first couple of years. But what the public wants to know about are the policies that are going to be implemented in the future. And both candidates have talked about the policies they want to implement in the future. And the financial community, the economic press, the financial community have reacted to those proposals. And they've concluded that Trump's plans will do considerably more damage to the economy and will provide inferior results for the economy than the plans that have been discussed in detail by the Harris campaign. And what the people are talking about that they worry about with respect to the Trump proposals are across-the-board tariffs, which promise to be inflationary, which promise to be a tax paid by American individual consumers or the American companies that import goods, that those tariffs will disrupt the supply chain and will prompt increased tariffs on American goods, a trade war with other countries, and would produce nowhere near the amount of revenue to offset the reduction in revenue with the second issue that the financial communities find problems with, which is the announced plan by Trump to substantially reduce corporate taxes and other taxes, which will be inflationary to the extent they aren't offset. And there's no opportunity to offset them with the revenue to be derived from the tariffs. Number one, they won't develop enough revenue, or two, if they're simply negotiating items, they'll be negotiated away. And then the third issue they're concerned about are massive deportations, which they believe will reduce the rate of growth of the GDP based on the contribution to the growth rate of the GDP of the millions of people who are in this country who might get deported. So that I guess I'd like you to comment on all of that, because I think everyone is worried about the economy going forward. What are the policies going to be, and how are they going to affect the economy?
Well, that was a pretty good dissertation there. I would just point out that under Trump, wages were up, I think, 7.7%. We did have a record economy until the COVID recession hit. I would credit primarily President Trump's dedication to reducing the regulatory burden. If you're a small entrepreneur, you understand the harmful impact of regulations, all the barriers to entry created by licensing boards, that type of thing. So, President Trump is definitely dedicated to that. Obviously, does not want to increase the tax burden on businesses. We had a huge tax cut for every American, and pretty well paid for itself had it not been for the COVID recession. We've got we've got more than a $4 trillion tax increase that's going to kick in automatically in 2026 on Senate Finance. We're looking at that right now. From my standpoint, what I'm going to be pushing for, and President Trump's not going to be able to implement this stuff on his own. He's going to have to come to Congress. I'm on Senate Finance. What I'm pushing for is this opportunity to simplify and rationalize our tax system, which is what I'd like to do. So we've got to pretty well throw everything in the top.
Senator Johnson, how does that square with any of the things that he was asking about what former President Trump?
You're asking about the economy.
Well, no,
Trump,
but I would.
I think President Trump does want a world free of tariffs, but that's not the world we're in. In his previous administration, he used tariffs to try and get people to comply with things. For example, one of the reasons he was able to secure the border was he threatened tariffs against Mexico. So I view his talk of tariffs as more threatening to get people to behave properly, to engage in free and fair trade, as opposed to.
But Senator, when Donald Trump,
I would not support across-the-board tariffs either.
yeah, well, okay, well, but when Donald Trump talks about tariffs, he talks about using the revenue from the tariffs to offset the revenue reduction from his tax reductions, and he talks about how tariffs are going to generate so much revenue that he'll be able to fix the healthcare system with all of the surplus revenue that'll be derived by it. I mean, he's hanging tariffs out to the public as a tax which he describes as being paid by foreigners, which will then fill the coffers of America and allow him to solve problems, which you seem to agree is a fallacious promise.
Well, again, first of all, he has a record. It was a successful record versus Harris and Biden. 40-year high inflation. The dollar you held started the Biden administration is now worth 83 cents. A war on fossil fuel, which is insane. Everything. An open border.
Well, now wait. The fossil fuel.
Everything else. So Democrat governance has been a disaster.
Well, Senator, a war on fossil fuel, but the production of oil has reached record levels under Biden. So I mean, we're not suffering from a shortage of oil production, and furthermore, the debt level that was incurred under Donald Trump exceeds under any measurement has substantially exceeded the debt level contribution to the national debt under Joe Biden. So I mean,
well, so because we're limited in time. Senator Johnson, are you willing to, and is President Trump, former President Trump, willing to adhere to the outcome of the elections, to say that, if Kamala Harris wins, we support that and we're going to accept that?
Well, I sure hope so. Unfortunately, here in the state of Wisconsin, we have a governor who vetoed the types of bills that would restore confidence in our election system. So you're asking me a hypothetical question that I really can't answer because I don't know, how many different ways Democrats are going to want to cheat here.
So hang on a second, Senator Johnson. Calvin, can you play that cut? All right, do we have it? Senator Johnson, that was you in the 2020.
Yes, and in that same election, 170,000 ballots were improperly cured. You had balloting in the park in Madison. We had people voting in nursing homes without the proper supervision. We had Zuckerbucks taking.
None of that was proven. None of that was proven.
All kinds of irregularities that occurred in 2020.
Senator Johnson, 60 different court cases. 60 different court cases didn't bear that out, sir.
Most of those never even looked at the evidence. They were just dismissed because the issue was moot.
So, Senator Johnson, I have to push back on that. So you're telling me that the courts did not look at the evidence because the courts are slanted towards Democrats? Is that what you're saying?
That is correct. In Wisconsin, for example, they used the cloak of latches, and they didn't really look at the evidence of the case. And that happened across the board. There were a few courts that actually did look at evidence and dismissed cases.
Didn't Justice Gableman spent a year and a half and over $1 million investigating all of what you're talking about? It didn't come forward with any proposed litigation or prosecution.
Well, there are all kinds of bills that the Republican legislature proposed and passed that the governor vetoed. I mean, for example, we still haven't cleaned up our voter roll. I mean, we've got 7.5 million voters on our voter roll, and only 3.5 million are eligible. What's that about? Why don't we clean up those rolls?
Well, Senator Johnson,
there's so many things we could do to restore confidence, and I'm not looking for a partisan advantage.
Well, Senator Johnson, you are a United States senator. you are a United States senator, and you are, and others are telling the American people that our system of elections is not fair and right and just. And you think that's a good thing long term for this society?
Not as serious. We do things that we recommend other countries don't do in terms of secure elections. Again, Democrats, I mean, for example, are you going to vote yes on the amendment that would change our Constitution so only citizens can vote?
Well, I mean, it's a ridiculous statement.
The amendment already. Oh, wait, our Constitution provides for that. Our Constitution already provides for that.
We're clarifying it that only citizens.
Also, now we're clarifying. But why do we need to clarify it, Senator, when it's already there?
Democrats want to make it easy to cheat. We're trying to prevent.
Oh, so Senator Johnson, sir, with all due respect, to say that Americans that are Democrats are cheaters, really, that's not very becoming of a United States senator, sir.
Democrats in power are trying to make it pretty easy to cheat. They were opposed to the SAVE Act, which just would require proof that you are a citizen. Again, if it's illegal for non-citizens to vote, why not make people
Senator Johnson, you are implying that Democrats cheat and Republicans don't. You clearly are stating that.
I think it's obvious that one side of this political spectrum wants to secure our elections, put it in control so that everybody has confidence in the result, and the other side wants to make it just easier to cheat with things like mail-in balloting, no voter ID. I mean, you got the Attorney General of the United States opposed to voter ID when 80% of Americans support voter ID. I'm on the side of the American public here. I'm just talking about elected Democrat officials want to turn this into a one-party nation. They're on a mission to do so.
Senator Johnson, thank you very much for the time. Thank you very much for the call. Our phone lines are open at 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. You heard it for yourself. That was Senator Ron Johnson. Up next, you and your responses on the other side.
All right. Everything's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right.
Concert information. The United We Worship Tour featuring Danny Goki and Mac Powell. With special guests Tasha Layton and Seth Schleter. Sunday, November 10th in Oak Creek at Discover Church. Tickets and info available at awakeningfoundation.com. Thanks to Altrua HealthShare, the United We Worship Tour, an Awakening Foundation event.
It is the Halloween season, so it's time for you to rot.
Gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids in the street, but not enough to eat. Who am I to
Sandy, you're a deep guy.
Well, I think Michael
Perry
Jackson.
Como and Michael Jackson.
Yeah, it's a big bracket. It's a big tent. It's a big tent.
To the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Sandy, I think Senator Johnson kind of got a little more than he bargained for. Let's go to the phone lines and our colleague Maggie Dawn. Good morning to you, Maggie. You say what?
Good morning, guys. Great job with the senator. Bravo. You make me very proud to work with both of you. I had 3 brief points. First of all, what Senator Johnson said about the legal challenges to the 2020 election is a lie. It is at best an oversimplification. I was the lawyer defending Milwaukee County when we were sued by the Trump campaign following the 2020 recount. I was Milwaukee County's lawyer during the 2020 recount. I can tell you that the Trump-appointed judge, Brett Ludwig, in the Eastern District of Wisconsin, was presented with the entire factual record from the recount, as well as every factual argument and every bit of evidence the Trump campaign had to challenge the result in Milwaukee County. And the Trump judge, Brett Ludwig, rejected every single claim, all of them. Secondly, his comment about the voter rolls is so misleading that it is itself a lie. What he's talking about or alluding to are people who haven't updated their addresses and may not have voted in a while. It doesn't mean that their voter registration is suspect or invalid. It just means they haven't voted and updated their information. To remove people from voter rolls is to make it more likely that fewer people will vote. And that brings me to point 3. The entire Republican agenda for the last 20 years is to reduce and suppress the vote, because the demographic reality in this country is that we are moving to a more center-left place that is more diverse, with more people that reject Republican policies. And so the Republicans need to cheat. It is the gaslighting of America, and the senator should be ashamed of himself. Thank you, gentlemen, for what you did this morning.
All right, Maggie, thank you very much for the call. Sandy, you want to respond to any of that?
Well, no, she's right. She's dead on. I mean, the fact is that gerrymandering was the Republican form of trying to get a leg up, and their only process now for defeating people, defeating the Democrats or the demographics, the inevitable demographics, is to suppress the demographics. So, I think both parties have work to do. I think the Democratic Party has work to do to reach out better to the rural voter. And I think the Republican Party, rather than suppressing the vote, should do a better job of reaching out to those votes who they would otherwise choose to suppress.
All right, let's go to Naomi from Oconomowoc. Good morning to you, Naomi. Thank you very much for the call and listening. You say what?
I say that Ron Johnson is out of touch with reality, has no concept of the average American, what they want, need. He outright lies about the election. It's just astounding that a senator will just come out like that and just lie. We remember how it was when Trump was in office. I'm a small business owner. We nearly went under because of what happened, how he handled COVID and everything. We have grown back under Biden. And that's what I wanted to call and say. He outright just lies. And he does not represent what we actually it's not a majority, but what a lot of us feel about how the economy is and how the Trump administration was. And I applaud you guys for how you fought back against his lies about the court cases. You guys do a marvelous job. And Maggie, I believe that was her name that was just on,
Right.
put it point blank about how those court cases went. He did not win any of them. There is no proof. But nobody wants to listen to it because they constantly are in the right-wing conservative media bubble and will not come out of it to look at and face the facts.
Hey, Naomi, thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Troy from Mount Horeb. Good morning to you, Troy. You say what?
Good morning, and both of you did a fantastic job not letting him just spew his lies. To everybody on that side who thinks that there's shenanigans going on voter night, come to the polls. I work the polls. And I know we have openings in Mount Horeb. I'm sure all the rest of you have openings in your districts. Ron Johnson, you're not on the ballot. You can vote. You can work the polls. Come and see how it's run and that there aren't any shenanigans. And one more thing, if you take, as Maggie said, if you take off people who just haven't voted for a while, that's going to slow down the process immensely when they come in, because this is going to be a popular election. So they come in and want to vote, and now I got to add them back onto the voter roll. That's going to take extra time and slow down the process.
Hey, Troy, thank you very much for the call. Our phone lines are open at 855-752-4842. It's Friday. That means Fridays with my co-host, Sandy Williams, and you. What do you say about the senator, Senator Ron Johnson? 855-752-4842. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show. The grain of a mustard seed.
I have a bunch of other texts on the other text line that I can read if you.
Yeah, okay, you can.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
What's your choice?
Oh, Sandy Williams.
What's your choice?
Yeah.
Voice Your Choice. That's about 1967.
Yep.
Isn't that something I remember that?
I think exactly.
I know, man. And maybe I haven't heard it since 1967. Welcome back.
By the Radiance.
To the Earl Ingram Show. Can't believe you played that.
Voice Your Choice.
Yeah, that you found Voice Your Choice.
Yeah.
You know, 67, I was 7 years old.
Well, I was older.
And I remember Voice Your Choice. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can 67. As always, you can join us at 855-752-4842. Sandy Williams. It's Friday. That means Friday is my co-host, Sandy Williams.
You should see the video of them singing this. Actually, you can see you can throw yourself back in the time machine because it is ancient stuff.
Yeah. Well, you mean to tell me
the Radiance?
You mean to tell me that was ancient times that we were living in,
dancing and singing?
Yeah. Anyway, let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to us, Brendan. Hey, good morning to you, Brendan. You say what?
Great interview, you guys. I just wanted to make a point that I think that what I heard, what kept ringing in my brain as he was speaking is the desperation the Republican Party is facing for him to call and do an interview where obviously he was going to be up against some tough questions and some smart individuals that knew facts. That's all.
Hey, Brendan, great stuff, man. Thank you very much for the call. Calvin, you got some texts.
Yeah, we got some texts on the 855 number. We had Mark from Prairie du Sac said non-citizens are not voting, and how can you secure the vote when you are engaged in a conspiracy against the American people, Senator Johnson? We have VP Harris saying, or we have Eric from Tulsa saying VP Harris says she will put a Republican in her cabinet, and he says Democrats want a one-party nation. Projection 101. And we also had Jim from Genesee Depot who said, unlike most, I don't think Rojo is out of touch with most Wisconsinites. I don't think he's ignorant of what people need and want. He knows he is on the wrong side of those lists, and that's why he doesn't hold real town halls and engage in crowds that ask real questions.
Calvin, thank you. We'll go right back to the phone lines. Bill from Oconomowoc. Good morning to you, Bill. You say what?
Well, you and Sandy hit it out of the park today. What a perfect timing to have that. Ron Johnson and all his followers, I just have two questions, real simple ones. Are we in such rough times that we need a convicted felon, 36 convictions, a convicted felon and a sexual predator in the White House? When has America been in that dire straits? That's what they need to lead our nation. And then another thing, I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but let's say Trump wins. Let's just say that. Guess who validates him? Kamala. And if you think Kamala is going to validate somebody who 14th Amendment Section 3 can't really be validated, I guess we may have a come to Jesus moment that this country needs is long coming.
Hey, Bill, thank you very much for the call. Cindy from Appleton, you're up next.
Hello.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to disagree with that guy a little bit I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, I'm calling because I just wanted to say that Ron Johnson is a box of rocks. I just, seriously, to this day, I cannot understand how that man got elected in the first place and how he continues to get elected. He does not he's just like the criminal, the felon. He does not represent anybody but himself and his right-wing wackos. He doesn't care about people. He doesn't care about children. He doesn't care about small businesses. He is a man for himself, just like the criminal. And I just, for the life of me, am just beside myself thinking that not only might he get elected again in another year or two, but that felon is going to end up being our president again. And this scares the bejesus out of me.
Hey, Cindy, thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Jean from Eau Claire. Good morning to you, Jean. You say what?
Good morning. Thank you, guys. I need more blood pressure medicine. No, I don't have any, but I'm going to have to be on it real soon. Okay, and I got to say, Johnson, are you kidding me? This is me speaking, Jean from Eau Claire. In my opinion, you are the guy that should have been investigated or indicted as a co-conspirator of January 6th reaction carrying the fake electors, Ron Johnson. You're lucky you're walking around free, and then you got to come on and spread more lies. I hope they're keeping track of all this evidence. Thank you, guys.
Hey, hey, Jean, thank you very much for the call. You know, Sandy, I for the life of me, you and I, like I said, been around a little while. The fact that a United States senator can give such simplistic answers, well, Democrats lie. Well, Democrats want to cheat. What is that?
Well, what's interesting to me is that the process is all supposedly in response to a lack of confidence in elections. But the lack of confidence in elections is only because of people like him talking about all the things that they have essentially assumed or made up about the election process. The election process in the United States has for decades been very solid, scandal-free, okay? And the number of fraudulent votes cast in this national election could be counted on two hands in all likelihood. And of the cases that were caught, at least as many of them were Republicans acting fraudulently as Democrats. And so, you know, I just think this is a lot of projection. I think the Republican process of gerrymandering was so cynical that they believe that there are cynical forces at work trying to play with the election system because it's something that they have been very focused upon themselves.
But Sandy, to say that Democrats just want to stay in power, what is he talking about? What the reason they gerrymandered, Sandy, is what? So they can stay in power.
Yes, I mean, I think incumbency has become far too important to incumbents overall, and you know, the political system needs to be watched carefully. But what doesn't need to happen is to sacrifice the confidence in the election system in order to secure power, and that's really the dangerous thing that's happened here. Is the MAGA movement has decided to sacrifice public confidence in government and public confidence in the very backbone of our government, which is elections, in pursuit of the continuation of their power.
You know, Sandy, we have listeners from the other side. I wonder, they heard that. I wonder if they condone a person who is a United States senator just falling back on lies that, hey, the Democrats just want to cheat. That's all they want to do. How can you have any conversation and dialogue as a Democrat, Sandy, with a senator who sits across from you who thinks that all you do is lie and cheat?
Well, it depends. I think unfortunately, we have a semantics problem here because I think the Republican version of the word cheating includes facilitating the vote of as many people, of as many American citizens as possible. And that doesn't redound too much to their benefit. So their version of cheating has been to make voting easier. And they want to create the illusion that making voting easier is going to make it far easier for people to vote illegally. And this talk about, for instance, proof of citizenship when voting, okay? A very small percentage of Americans have passports, which is a fundamental way to prove citizenship. The other fundamental way to prove it is to have your birth certificate, okay? I challenge our listening audience to go put their hands on their birth certificate in the next 10 minutes.
Most people don't.
I can assure you that most people have no idea
where it is,
where they can physically find their birth certificate, which means that if they don't have it in hand, they're going to have trouble voting.
Let's go to Mark from Prairie du Sac. Welcome back. All right, let's go to Susan. Go ahead, Susan. All right. Phone lines are open at 855-752-4842. Sandy, more than anything else, I think what is telling and what I would say to those on the other side of things from most of the callers that we had on today is if you elect people who aren't intellectual enough to have conversations, big boy conversations, I'd say, without, reverting to they're cheaters. That's all they want to do is cheat. I mean, you would expect that, Sandy. I don't expect that in a high school debate, right? Why should you expect it at the highest level of government in the world?
Well, I'm only smiling because I'm continuing to focus on this birth certificate issue, because I can remember at the presidential level an accusation being made that someone was cheating with respect to running for president based on a citizenship issue and a birth certificate problem. Okay, and so I just think that we've come a long way, and it's a long way in the wrong direction with respect to this whole discussion about the sanctity of our election process. And it's really designed to erode all of the American public with respect to their confidence and the confidence they might have in those that they elect and the election process itself. This notion that elections are rigged or that courts are rigged, that there's a system, a secret conspiracy process that's designed to rob a whole bunch of people of power, of their rights, is something that is very, very invidious, and it's something we need to get over.
He said the courts are rigged.
Rigged.
A United States senator said the jurisprudence of the United States is not right.
Well, the ex-president of the United States has spent a substantial amount of time decrying everything that rules against him as being rigged, that there are people out there out to get him, and those same people are out to get you, okay?
Yeah.
And this is all a part of the dark, the deep state, the secret cult of people who are there to rob people of their rights, okay? And this is all the kind of stuff that leads directly to the toppling of our governmental system.
So let's go. Is that Nanley? Okay, we're not there. Okay, so I will say this, Sandy. It's telling. It was more than telling with me that he could say those things in the public. If you felt that way as a United States senator, you should, say that in a bar somewhere over a beer. But it's telling that you're willing to say that for the whole world to start believing that our nation is, you can't trust, the jurisprudence of it. Well, and you said this before, if you can't trust the jurisprudence of our nation, what do we have?
Well, that's right. I mean, it destroys the system. Okay, and when the system's gone, what do you replace it with? What does that look like? I think that the politicians apparently have moments of honesty that they then have to reflect upon and renege. But when he was talking during that clip about how it was that if everyone who had voted for Republicans for Congress, all the Republicans vote for Congress, had voted for the president,
they still would have lost.
No, the president would have won by a lot. Okay, Trump would have won by a lot. But there were lots of Republicans who didn't vote for Trump, who did vote for Congress people in the state, which proved the fact that he wasn't cheated out of this. But he has to renege on that because that isn't convenient in today's conversation.
Hey, Sandy. When I get out of here, I'm going to bring up Voice Your Choice, and I'm going to play that. Welcome back. Oh, no, we got to go to 855-752-4842. Guys, hang on. We'll come right to you. Those people.
Yeah, I'm figuring it out right now. I'm having an issue with my computer.
Oh, okay.
But I'll have them up by the next segment.
Okay, all right. Well, okay. Hey, Calvin, I think Sandy's been around his grandsons and granddaughter. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show.
Listen, I want you to know, I listened to that rap all the way through to make sure that it didn't meander into the world of obscene profanity.
As always, you can join us at 855-752-4842. Let's go back to the phone lines and Jim from Brookfield. Good morning to you, Jim. Thank you very much for the call. You say what, sir?
Good morning, Earl and Sandy. I just would like to say our beloved Senator Ron Johnson, it is an embarrassment to the state and the citizens of Wisconsin using his nutty conspiracy theories about vaccines, presidential assassins, using terms like deep state and Antiva, which don't even exist. But as Sandy pointed out, most importantly, he's undermining the confidence in our election by questioning, saying things are rigged and questioning the integrity of it. That alone should be disqualifying for a U.S. senator.
Yes.
And I just thought, and I want to say, I really thought there was a missed opportunity in this last election when he ran against a very good candidate, Mandela Barnes.
Yes.
That a bigger issue was not made of his accepting the fake electors prior to the certification, and he just brushed it off by saying, well, that whole issue just took like 20 seconds. And I thought a good campaign ad would have been, hey, how long does it take to commit a crime? You rob a store in 20 seconds, you go to jail. This guy's taking fake electors to undermine our democracy, and he brushes it off on Fox News like nothing happened. So anyway, I hope, 3 terms, 18 years is plenty. Heaven forbid he gets on another term. for a quarter century, he'd be a senator for 24 years. I mean, give me a break.
Hey,
the man's a disgrace and has to go. So
hey, Jim, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for the call. Bob from Waukesha. Good morning to you, Bob. You say what?
Good morning, Earl. Well, you had Johnson on, and he did just what I expected he would do. You remember when Oshkosh Truck got the contract to build all the new vehicles for the post office?
Oh, yes, and he was opposed to it.
Well, yeah, when they got the Oshkosh Truck got the contract, and as soon as they had the contract, they made an announcement they were moving all the work down to Georgia. Well, guess what? Johnson never, ever said anything, never tried to get them to bring the work here. And he said, that's none of my business to tell them where to build those vehicles. He has done nothing ever since he got elected. He has done nothing for this state. I'm a retired Teamster. When we needed his help, he did nothing for us. He is a POS, and that's all he is.
I guess we can kind of surmise what that stands for. But Sandy, I still, like I said, he's a United States Senator. If he has that mentality, how can you get anything done? It's part of the reason why we can't get things done.
Well, I think we were talking before he came on about the MAGA movement within the Republican Party and the Republican Party. And I think that Senator Johnson, like I said before he came on, has cast his lot with the MAGA movement within the Republican Party. And I think at some point, the Republican Party is going to have to come to grips with whether it is the MAGA movement or whether it is a party that has some theoretical backbone and some theoretical underpinnings that are associated with conservatism, for instance. And I think at that point, Senator Johnson is going to look back on this time and worry about the extent to which he cast his lot with a movement and not with a theoretical kind of conservatism. And I think there are plenty of people out there who are very reluctant to vote for Donald Trump for very good reason, because they're voting not for a set of principles. They're not voting for a theoretical kind of approach to government. They're voting for an individual, someone who promises to be nothing but the individual. He basically is saying to the public, vote for me. I know what's best. There are all kinds of problems which I've made up, some true, some not. I've made up a lot of stuff here. But take it all with a grain of salt, because once I get in office, I'm going to make everything good. I'm going to make everything great again, okay? And that all is something that anyone with their full senses would be very reluctant to vote for. Like I said, he's the guy outside the circus tent luring everyone in, and most people with their senses don't go in the door.
Sandy, it really is that simplistic when it comes to him and what he offers.
Yeah.
And what people... and why people are snookered by him. What you just said is what they see and what they believe in, just believing the things that he says.
Well, I think what he's stroking is individualism and saying if you're an individualist, if you're a tough guy, if you're a tough individualist, you vote for me, okay? And he's painted a brand that seems to resemble that, and I just worry because that brand. It's a house of cards. It's an empty suit, so to speak. And so I hope that people wake up. They've got 10 days.
All right. Thank everybody who made the show go. Really appreciate you, the listening audience. As I've said before, you're the show. Thank you, Sandy, again for another great week. We'll talk later. Thank you, Calvin, as well for another great week. Up next, Jane Madden and Greg Bott. Madden on air. You've been tuned into the Earl Ingram Show. Have a great weekend.